friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Kate. Really? Hi friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Caitlin. For those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. And today we are doing my September eyeshadow palette ranking video. My mom's dog is over and there's a lot of dogs running in the background, so I apologize in advance for the nails on the laminate floor. Anyways, if you are new here, in my September ranking videos, I like to rank both new and old eyeshadow palettes to my collection so that you can kind of get a feel for like, how do these new palettes really stack up against the stuff that, you know, I like to use. And then you can also, you know, as I do first impressions reviews on my videos, if you check in on these monthly rankings, you can see how my thoughts on certain palettes evolve over time. So anyways, if that's something you're interested in, then you should go ahead and keep on watching. This month, we have 20 eyeshadow palettes exactly. Number 20 is my Melt Cosmetics Millennial Pinks palette. And fair warning, I actually used a ton of Melt Cosmetics palettes in this in the month of September because my goal was to use a different Melt Cosmetics palette every day, eventually run through all of them, and then film a Melt Cosmetics ranking video. But then I bought a bunch of stuff and that's what plan fell off. The wheels fell off of that plan, I guess. Anyway, so this is the Millennial Pinks palette. Oh god, this is a messy palette. I like this palette, I really do. It's not my favorite. The shimmers in this palette are not the best, and I feel like you have a really big jump from this shade to like these two shades as far as depth goes, and so blending is just a little bit trickier. And I just don't find the color story of this palette as inspiring. So that is why that one is number 20. Number 19 is the Melt Cosmetics Brunette palette. This color story I don't find inspiring. That's really the reason it's ranked this low. Otherwise, the quality of this palette is actually amazing. Shimmer quality is great. Matte quality is great. I just am not as inspired by this color story, so that's why it's so low. But if you're looking for like a neutral palette that you could just like grab and do a really simple eye look like every day, this is a really good palette. Like I don't want it being low to like take away from the fact that the quality is really nice on it. Okay, I finally took the box off of this palette and now I'm sad because there's dog hair all over it and the velvet's like already dirty, and I liked keeping it nice because this palette has a like squishy velvety top. I don't know. Anyway, I'm very touch like is a good sensory experience for me, I guess. This is the Nomad Cosmetics Orient Express palette. Kind of a similar story with this one. The quality is really nice. The color story is just not super inspiring, but the only reason this edged out the brunette palette is because some of these shimmer shades, like this one down here, Venice, is this like duochrome shade, and then the gold in here, they're just like really nice shimmers. Not that the Melt ones aren't nice, but like these just edged it out a little bit. Next up is the Melt Cosmetics 420 palette. This palette is nice. You do have to finesse her a little bit. I like this palette. I like the color story of this palette. I like the quality of this palette. I don't mind having to finesse the shadows to get them to do what I want them to. So yeah, I enjoyed this palette. I think I just liked the other palettes in this ranking better. Like, this one sometimes jumps up high, so I think it really depends on the look I've done with the palette and how much I had to finesse it and how much, like, of a hurry I was in. Like, it's definitely a palette that's very mood-based on my ranking. So, let's see, we did 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. Number 16 is the Huda Beauty Wild Obsessions Tiger palette. I like this palette. This shade in particular is really stunning, and I actually did a look with these like gold shimmers all over the lid that was really pretty. I really enjoyed using this palette. I think the quality of this is actually really nice. I just like the color stories of the other palettes that are above this better. So again, liked this palette, had no issues with it. 15 is the Huda Beauty Wild Jaguar palette. Mine came shattered, so that was a little bit devastating. I repressed it pretty easily, but it's still kind of a mess. I like this palette. It's definitely like very, like, I don't want to say basic because it's neutral. It's like a mauve neutral with like a purple and gold shimmer. So it's not like just brown, but it's still like more basic as far as color stories go. So you can't get like that interesting of a look out of it. But I think it's really beautiful and I think the quality of it is really nice. So there we go. Next up is the NARS Climax eyeshadow palette. One thing that I think is really funny, okay, so this is the palette. That's the back. The sticker is upside down. So like if you flip it like that, okay, but it's like, anyways, whatever. That's what the inside looks like. I put this one slightly higher than the two like mini Huda palettes because I like the shimmer. I just like the color story of the shimmers in this palette a little bit more. But the these mattes and these shimmers are amazing. They're like more like thick metallic, whereas the Huda ones are more like toppery like shimmers, if that makes sense. So a slightly different formula, but I really like this palette. Like, I think this is a very underrated palette. And I know that it's at 15, so that implies that it's not underrated, but this is a nice eyeshadow palette. I'm just like I prefer not bigger palettes, but I'm more like a 12 to 15 eyeshadow kind of gal. That's my sweet spot. And so the 9 ones just feel like kind of limiting to me. Anyways, next up is the Milk Cosmetics Blueprint palette, which actually only has 8 shades, so what do I know? But I just am obsessed with the blue shimmers in this palette. I don't know, there's something about this palette that does something for me. I really like it. I know it's just like brown and blue, so it's not that unique of a color story, but I like the shimmer quality. I like the matte quality. You do only have 2 mattes in this palette, so, you know, you might want to pull in like a different matte, but I feel like you're able to like really sheer out these 2 mattes and then build up like depth with just using those shades, which I think is really nice. Next up is the Milk Cosmetics Recently Deceased palette. This is from their Beetlejuice collection that they did last year. I wish that these shades, these matte shades, and even like just the purple had more discrepancies in them. Like, I just feel like they're very like similar tones and like shade. Like, I don't know. There's not as much depth in this. I feel like this color story could have been like so close, almost there. But all that being said, I still really like the palette. I like using it. I did like a purple with green shimmer halo eye, and I thought it turned out nice, so I like it. And I love the packaging. Like, I just love holding this palette. I don't know. I like the way that it looks. That's really what keeps her. I think that's what boosts her in my mind. That would be my favorite palette of all time if that color story was just like one step up. Next up is I don't even know what number we're on. This is 11. Okay. This is the Muse Beauty, now known as K-Love Beauty, formerly Muse Beauty, Triumph of Venus palette. That's what she looks like. I just really vibe with these blue tones. I don't know. There's something special about them. So I've enjoyed this palette every time I used it. And that's really all I have to say. Number 10 is the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. This palette and I have had a journey, okay? So I used to not be a Natasha Denona stan. I didn't actually become a stan until last year when she came out with the bronze palette, and I was like, I have to have that palette. Like, that palette spoke to me. And then I became obsessed with the quality as soon as I used it. And I'm like, I need more Natasha. Oh, I had the Safari palette before that. Okay, let me back up. I had the Safari palette. I thought the quality of that one was good. I know other people disagree. Anyway, the bronze palette, though, was what turned me into a stan. So it is better than the Safari palette, probably. I don't know. You'll have to have it. That's a case-by-case basis. Anyways, all that being said, I saw the Sunrise palette and I was like, okay, I should get that palette because ASU, so my favorite college football and all of their sporting event team, because that's where I went. Anyway, they're maroon and gold. So I feel like this like maroon shade and then that like yellowy shade, I was like, this is the perfect like ASU palette. So I bought it and then didn't love it. Like, I did looks with it and I was like, it's okay, but it didn't give me that like that loving feeling that the bronze palette gave me. So anyway, I fell off of it. And then of course with the pandemic last year, I didn't go to any ASU sporting events because they were all closed off to fans. So I didn't really have an opportunity to like want to use this palette, so I wasn't really grabbing for it because I'm not normally like a warm eyeshadow person, or like, anyways, this is a really long story for this. To get to the point to say that I have been going to ASU football games now, and I want to reach for this palette almost every time, and now that I've been using it for that purpose, I'm like, this is great. I love this palette. So that was the point of my story. I purchased it for a specific reason, and it has worked great for that reason. Next up, number 9, is the Odin's Eye and Judy Red Dragon palette. This is a new palette. Oh, have I gotten to... I can't remember when I bought the Wild Obsessions. Did I get them in August or September? Those might have been new palettes. No. I got those in August. And I just hadn't... I think I tried... Maybe I tried the Jaguar palette and the Tiger palette at the beginning of September, but they came to me at the end of August. Or were they also in my August video? I can't remember. Those are 50-50. This is definitely the first new palette though. So there we go. Okay. Anyways, this is what the palette looks like. A very pretty neutral palette with some pops of green and red. The shimmers in this palette are amazing. The mattes in this palette are amazing. The only reason it is not in the top is because my top are like really good palettes this month. And then also, I've only played with this twice, and I just need to play with it a little bit more. But yeah, love that palette. Another new palette is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. So this is in the 8 spot. This is just my color story. Like, if I could have one palette and like, or not one palette, because this isn't even my top 1, so that would be silly. If this was the only palette I could live with, this would probably be number 1. But I just love this color story. Like, if I had to be like, okay, you can only have like one neutral leaning palette, this would be the palette. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. I love the toppery shades. I love how many cream to powder shadows she has. That's my favorite formula. I really like this palette, and I love the packaging too. Anyways, number 7 is the Alien Cosmetics Don't Be Jelly palette. I just think these like shades are very special. And so I don't reach for this palette a ton because like when I use it, I just want like that special shade. But they're so special that it feels wrong to put them any lower because yes, this palette was expensive, but like you get 9 like multi-chrome. Well, you get like 5 multi-chromes and like 4 duo, like really strong duochromes, practically multi-chromes. So anyways, I enjoy this palette and I think it's special, and that's why I put it higher. Number 6 is the Melt Cosmetics Mary Jane palette. This is actually probably the neutral palette that I could like use forever. The retro palette I do love, but there's just something about this one that I really like. I don't know. I like the way these shimmer shades are more like refracted. So like when you tap, they're better if you tap them. These shimmer shades do perform better, I feel like, if you use your finger and just kind of like tap them, because they look more like a like if a like light on like broken glass, kind of like this like refracted light situation, which I think is really cool. So I like this palette a lot. The mattes all work great. I feel like Melt always has great mattes, so, well, not always. Most of the time they have great mattes. Like 9 out of 10 times they have good mattes. Anyways, speaking of good Melt mattes, number 5 is the Gemini palette. I have not used this palette in a minute, but man, is she nice. The shimmer shades in this palette are nice. The mattes in this palette are super nice. The color story on this palette is nice, especially in the fall time. So yeah, nothing bad. This is one of my top palettes of all time. So that just speaks to how much I like the other new palettes I got this month that are ranked above this. I will say that there is like a recency bias with the new palettes. Like, if I've only used them once or twice, the recency bias kind of puts them lower because I'm like, I haven't played with them that much. But if I've used them more than twice and I like them and they're new, like they tend to get put like a little bit higher because I'm like, oh my god, I'm obsessed. You know what I mean? So just, you know, keep that in your back pocket. Number 4 is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde, another palette that I would consider one of my favorite palettes of all time. I just love this palette. I think the shimmer shades in this palette are so nice. And again, these mattes are nice. This is one of the few palettes I feel like in my collection where you can actually see like dips in the pan. And I don't know if you can even see them on camera, but like Libra has like a pretty decent dip. So does Vortex. Those are kind of the 2 shades I probably use the most. But anyway, I feel like you don't see dips in really any other eyeshadow palette I have, but this one has dips. I really like that palette a lot. Are you ready for the top 3? Because the top 3, 2 new palettes from this month, and 1 palette that is not new from this month, but I have purchased this year, so it is relatively new. That's what's coming up. So leave your guesses in the comments down below which palette you think is going to be number 1, or what you think the top 3 is going to be. So you can pause this and then come back once you've left your comment. And now we'll get into it. Number 3 is the Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette. So I do have a video up with this palette on my channel. So if you're curious, go ahead and check that out. But I just love this palette. First of all, I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. So anything Halloween themed like jumps up in my like heart. Like I just love it. I love the packaging on this. I love the theming on it. I love the imprints of the shadows. I love the color story. And I think these golds, like I know I talked about like the Huda Beauty Tiger palette and then the Nomad Cosmetics Orient Express palette having nice gold shimmers. These gold shimmers are the best I think I've ever used. I also really like this Highgate Cemetery shade. I know it's meant more to be a topper, but it's so beautiful. Same with Mary Cemetery. Yeah, all the shimmers are stunning. This is a really good palette. It was up for pre-order when I had posted my review video or like first impressions video. I don't know if it still is or not, hopefully, because I think you all should have this palette in your life. If you like colorful eyeshadows, because if you don't like colorful eyeshadows, I don't know that you should really buy that. The choice between number 2 and number 1 was hard. The reason number 2 is number 2 is because it's newer and I didn't feel like I've used it enough to truly rank it over the number 1 palette. So the number 2 palette is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Surge palette. I do plan to do a 2 looks video with this palette because I'm having a great time with it. This palette is just fun. I love the way it's organized. It makes my brain happy. I do need to stop doing monochromatic looks with it because I've kind of just been like, oh, I did a look with this row, this row, this row. And then I'm going to be like, oh, now I'll do one with this row, this row. You know what I mean? Like, I could be more creative with it, but I don't know. I just want to the left side controlling brain that I have, the analytical brain just is like, no, let's just keep it in these rows. But anyways, I love this palette. I think the shadow quality is amazing. Shimmers, mattes, whatever. It's great. So, like I said, the only reason it's number 2 is because I didn't feel like I could overthrow number 1 yet. This is the Cash Beauty Color Trip palette. I really like this palette. This is kind of a similar like situation as far as like having a bunch of colorful mattes and a few shimmers. The thing that makes this one like a little bit more inspiring to me is because you also have all these water activated liners at the bottom that are like dirty and I should probably clean. But anyway, I really like this palette. I've been enjoying the Blend Bunny palette as well, so I think they're both great. And yeah, those were all 20 eyeshadow palettes that I used in the month of September. So have you used any of these palettes? Let me know down below what your thoughts were. If you haven't used any of these palettes, did I talk you into buying any? I always love hearing that. Other than that, that's everything. If you're curious about the eyeshadow look I have on my face right now, it will be a video on my channel. It will be a video. Wow, that was really bad English. There will be a video on my channel of it. I used the Sigma Cinderella eyeshadow palette, so that first impression should already be up by the time you see this video. Anyways, that's everything from me. So if you guys haven't already, please make sure to thumbs up this video and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye!